everyone, Rebecca the Frugal Resinista here, and today I am going to show you how I do a puddle pour inside a container. It's a little different than doing a puddle pour where you're letting things run over the edges. I am using this serving tray that I got from Big Lots. It was in their clearance section, originally marked down to $6 and then down to $3, so I got two of these, but this is a $3 tray. Cute little chicken, but not my style. And so what I'm going to do is do a puddle pour in this to look kind of like a geode, not completely, because I want this to be a tray that you could sit on your coffee table or actually use to serve. So I'm not going to put any stones in it so that the surface of it stays nice and even. I'm going to show you real quick what colors I'm using. I haven't done this color combo before, so we'll see what happens. But I am using Craft Smart acrylic in light taupe, Folk Art in berry wine Bordeaux, Deco Arts Dazzling Metallic in Espresso, and then I got this Folk Art brand Color Shift. It's a metallic purple, and I got that at Michael's when it was on sale, and I think I paid just over $1 for it. And then I'm also going to use some Pearl-Ex powder pigment in yellow. I'm not going to do a yellow itself. I think what I'm going to do is mix it with this taupe and just see what happens. I've never tried that combo, so we'll see. It could look good, it could look bad. And then you guys know, if you've been watching my channel before, that I love this Testors brand enamel paint that you use on models like model airplanes, model ships, because it floats to the top and it gives you a really cool dimension. So I am going to get something underneath this to get everything covered, and I'm just gonna start pouring. I'll talk a tiny bit. For the most part though, I'm going to just go ahead and paint and let you guys watch, and then we'll talk about it at the end. Alright, because this is a sticker on the inside, sometimes you can just peel these off, but this one's stuck on pretty well. I'm using all darker colors, so I'm actually not going to worry about covering it, but if you were using any lighter colors at all, you would want to paint this with a layer of white just so that this chicken doesn't show through. So I am going to mix my resin. I am using Stone Coat Countertops Quick Coat, and I've started purchasing it in this size instead of in the gallon. I still get the same amount. I'll get multiple of these, but I find that it is a lot easier to pour these into the cups than to try to use the big gallons to pour. I'm also using solo cups that have lines in them because I can pour both of these up to the same line, and I know that they're even without measuring on a scale. But I have measured wrong doing this kind of thing before, so please, if you feel like you need to use a scale, absolutely do it. So I'm in a mix, I'm going to put this in, and then we are going to start pouring. Alright, now the way that a puddle pour differs when you are pouring it into a container versus onto a canvas or a piece of wood or something where it'll pour over the edges is that typically when you do a puddle pour, you start by putting a solid color over the whole thing so that it's easy for the other resin, or if you're doing acrylic paint, easier for the paint to spread out. The problem is if I go ahead and put a bunch in here, so that it'll all spread around, there's nowhere for that to go. It'll go to the edges, it'll start filling up, and I'll use way too much resin and waste a bunch of it. So what I'm going to do is I will do a puddle pour in the middle to get that look, but I'm going to start by just pouring some rings around the edges. They don't even necessarily completely have to touch, but then as that puddle comes into the middle, I've already got things on the edges to kind of spread around. So we are going to get started and we'll see what happens with my colors. To tell you guys as I'm doing this, I'll tell you real quick here, I have a cup of clear resin. Now that is to add to some of these as I run out. The reason that I don't keep it in the big container is that the resin gets hot really fast and it will actually cure too fast. So I go ahead and stick it into a different container so that I don't have to worry about it getting hard before I can use it. I'm tilting this just enough that I want to mess up the fact that these are pretty concentric circles. I don't want them to be in a circle shape. So I'm just going to keep moving it around a little bit until I'm happy with the fact that it doesn't look too circular, because in real life, I know this isn't exactly a geode, but if you're thinking in real life how geodes are formed and things, the way the Earth's crust and everything moves around, it really mangles things up. So I want to make sure that I don't have just like a perfect circle going on. All right, I am really happy with that. I'm gonna use my blowtorch to pop all the bubbles, and then after it has hardened, I'm gonna draw some lines with my acrylic pens. Okay, it has been about 2.5 hours since I poured this, and again, I used the quick coat resin, so it's pretty hard. Obviously, one little spot here I got too thin. You can see some of these lines. I'm gonna see if I can just use my acrylic paint pens to cover those as I draw my lines, but if they're too noticeable, I will go back and pour another coat. I am using Posca brand acrylic paint pens with the extra fine tip, and I'm gonna start with gold, and I have a purple out with me, and I haven't used purple on one of these before. I'm not sure if I like the idea or not. I feel like this might be a little too blue for my purple, so I'm gonna see what all of the lines look like in gold first before I decide if I need to add anything else. There's not a great trick to this other than to just try to draw as smoothly as possible. It's harder to do in round also because you're trying to match up your lines as you finish circles, but here we go. Okay, I'm really happy with that. I've never used blue before. I was telling you guys I might use purple, but I switched to this navy blue instead. It's kind of a navy blue, kind of a royal blue, but what I'm gonna do is sign my name, and then I am gonna coat this one with a final clear coat. All right, I've signed my name, and since I do have a couple spots where it feels like I still have a little bit too much picture going through, I am going to use some gold glitter nail polish and pour it right over the top in a few spots. I don't care if it crisscrosses some of my other lines because it just adds to the look, but the one thing you have to be careful with is once you start pouring, you can't stop very well, and I don't want to end up with a big puddle, so I have to really watch how I'm pouring this. This will yellow over time. Again though, because my color is already a goldish yellow, that's okay. If I was doing a bunch of blues or something, I would really not want it to yellow. But since I'm not, I'm just going to follow this line that I drew, and then I'll actually use the nail polish brush to even things out a little bit. Okay, I'm going to let the nail polish dry for about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to come back and coat this with a layer of clear. Now sometimes to save money I don't worry about doing that, but because I have the nail polish on top and I have the acrylic paint pens on top, and this is going to be able to carry food, I'm going to use a clear coat of my Stone Coat countertop resin again because that is food safe, and it'll give this a nice smooth finish, and that will let this whole thing finish nicely and be ready to go. The final thing that I am going to do is pour my clear coat. I'm using the same quick coat resin. I did switch to a clear cup because I feel like it's just a little easier to get a good mix. When I'm mixing in with my color, I try to mix it completely, but I don't worry about it quite as much because I'm going to keep mixing it as I stir in the color. But when I'm only using clear, I have to get the mix right the first time and mix it completely. So it's just easier to do it in a cup this size. I am going to pour this clear coat and torch it, and then we'll let everything harden for another couple of hours and it will be finished. We're going to let that cure and then I will show you the final product. Thank you everyone as always for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't done so yet, please like and subscribe to my channel. And if you'd like to see what products I use, they are down in the description. I'm trying to give you guys a good view of this, but it's hard to get it without the glare. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and that you come see me and my channel again. Thank you.